Welcome back to my channel, Famous and Fabulous. Did you know that Johnny Depp, yes, the famous Captain Jack Sparrow, had a sad secret for many years? Just a few minutes ago, he finally told everyone about it. If you've ever felt like you had to hide something very personal because you were scared, embarrassed, or afraid people wouldn't get you, you're not alone. Even famous people who seem to have everything going great can be hiding heavy secrets. Johnny's big reveal might be the most surprising and touching thing we've ever heard from a Hollywood star who has always been mysterious. For years, fans have wondered about Depp's quiet way of being, his soft way of talking in interviews, how deeply he gets into the characters he plays, and how he stays away from cameras when he's not working. What if all of that, or at least some of it, was a way to hide something very personal, something so deep and important that it changed how he lived his life and built his career? That's what makes this moment so powerful. For the first time ever, Johnny has shown us the real him. Not for attention or drama, but just to be honest. What he shared has left fans speechless. Here's how it happened. Just moments ago, at a quiet, almost surprise event in France. It wasn't a big red carpet event, but more like an art meeting away from bright lights. Johnny was there to talk about a new project that means a lot to him. As he answered questions from a small group of reporters, the mood changed from businesslike to very personal. When someone simply asked, "What's something your fans still don't know about you?" There was a pause, a long, real pause, not the kind of quiet that happens when someone is looking for something clever to say, but the kind that happens when someone is deciding whether to finally let go of something heavy they've carried for too long. Then, in a quiet voice, he said it. "I've lived with bad dyslexia my whole life." For a moment, no one said anything. It was like the room needed time to understand what he just said. Johnny didn't stop there. He explained how as a kid growing up in Kentucky, reading felt like trying to understand a language from another planet. Letters moved around on the page. Instructions made no sense. Even the easiest words looked like puzzles. School was awful. He remembered feeling stupid, even though he knew deep down he wasn't. But when you're a child, being called lazy or not paying attention because you can't read like the other kids, those words stick with you. He said that acting, believe it or not, became his way to escape. While most actors study scripts, look at text, and break down lines, Johnny had to use something different. Memory, feelings, rhythm. He would listen to recordings of dialogue, say them again and again, learning every pause and voice change until he didn't just know the lines, he became them. That's how he learned to do well in a job that depends so much on reading. It wasn't about cheating. He said it was about surviving. And he kept it hidden from directors, producers, even close friends, not to lie, but to protect himself. He was already seen as different, a bit of a mystery in Hollywood's carefully packaged system. Admitting he had trouble with reading could have changed everything. So, he built a fake personality, a shell, a version of himself that could avoid questions and hide the truth under charm, humor, and being likable. But things changed when he became a father. His daughter, Lily Rose, was the first person he opened up to completely. She was curious, watching, and had gotten her father's ability to understand others. As she got older, Johnny said he didn't want to keep secrets from her. He told her about his dyslexia, and instead of feeling sorry for him or being worried, she was proud. She told him that sharing it could help others. That being open about problems wasn't weakness, it was strength. It was that talk that made him start thinking differently. Maybe, just maybe, telling his story could give someone else the courage to tell theirs. This wasn't just an emotional confession. There was real stuff behind his message. Johnny talked about the tools he created over the years. He became really good at using colored filters to help reduce eye strain on the page. He used recording devices in the early days to play back scripts while walking or driving. He would sometimes write out entire speeches by hand, not to read them, but to learn them through the muscle memory of writing. These weren't tricks or shortcuts. They were methods born out of need and toughness. Experts agree that dyslexia doesn't mean less smart or less effort. Brain doctor Dr. Kate Wendell, who has worked with creative professionals for many years, has said dyslexia is simply different brain wiring. It often comes with an amazing ability to think in pictures, to create new things, and to understand others. Doesn't that describe Depp perfectly? From Edward Scissorhands to Donnie Brasco to Willy Wonka, his performances have always had layers of detail, imagination, and depth. It makes sense now. He wasn't just playing a part. He was translating a world he couldn't always read into something the rest of us could feel. Here's another surprising thing Johnny revealed. Music played a huge role in how he dealt with his dyslexia. He would study song lyrics, especially from old rock records. He'd read along while the songs played, using the beat to help him understand the text. It turned reading into something fun rather than stressful. That technique, using rhythm and music, is actually backed up by research. Studies have shown that rhythm-based reading help can really help those with dyslexia by making the brain's timing and order skills stronger. Johnny also talked about how hard it was emotionally to hide this for so long. Imagine for a moment what it must have felt like to be Johnny Depp, a man loved around the world, celebrated for his variety, talent, and depth, carrying a secret that made him feel completely unworthy behind closed doors. For many years, he worked under the constant pressure of being someone else. To fans, he was a genius. To directors and producers, he was a risk-taker, an artist who brought unpredictable brilliance to the screen. Yet inside, he carried the choking fear that if people truly knew how much he struggled, that he had trouble reading a script or needed hours of extra time to memorize lines, they might not admire him the same way. That maybe the world's love for him was based on a version of himself that wasn't completely real. That kind of emotional conflict, when kept up over years and years, doesn't just wear you down, it quietly changes how you see yourself. For Johnny, the fear wasn't crazy. The entertainment business, as creative as it may seem on the surface, can often be harshly strict behind the scenes. Actors are expected to hit their marks, say their lines perfectly, and do so under incredible time pressure. A learning disability like dyslexia doesn't fit neatly into that world. It needs extra time, help, patience, things that are often hard to find on a tight production schedule. So Johnny did what many people in his position might do. He hid it. He learned how to make up for it, how to pretend, how to get by without letting anyone see the truth. He described it like playing a role, not just on set, but all the time. Even in interviews, press tours, casual conversations on set. He was always on, always guarding the line between who he was and who people thought he was. He talked about how lonely that was. Not because people weren't kind to him. In fact, he said he was lucky to work with many caring and smart people, but because when you're hiding something, even kindness can feel like a threat. If someone compliments your preparation, your attention to detail, or your dedication, part of you feels like a fake. You smile, nod, accept the praise, but inside you're screaming, if only you knew how hard this is for me. If only you knew how scared I am that you'll find out. That's what makes hiding a struggle so painful. It's not just the burden of the struggle itself, it's the constant acting of pretending it doesn't exist. Johnny shared that one of the hardest parts was the way dyslexia affected how he felt about himself. Especially as a young person, he remembered being called lazy, distracted, even stupid in school. Not because he wasn't trying, but because he couldn't keep up the traditional way. He said those labels stuck to him like glue long after he left the classroom. Even when he was standing on a stage getting awards or reading great reviews of his work, there was still a part of him that felt like he didn't deserve it. That inner child, the one who struggled with letters and felt dumb for not being able to read out loud like the other kids, never fully went away. He just got better at hiding them. He described the internal fight as exhausting. On the outside, he was doing great, starring in blockbuster films, creating unforgettable characters, traveling the world. But on the inside, he felt like he was always getting ready for impact. Getting ready for the moment someone would pull the curtain back and see the flawed, anxious person beneath the confident outside. This wasn't just insecurity. It was a chronic, deep-rooted fear of being exposed. A fear that the career he'd worked so hard to build might fall apart if the truth came out. For years, that fear controlled how he talked with the world. He told a story that really drove the point home. During the early days of his acting career, he was handed a last-minute rewrite of a scene, something that happens all the time in film and television. But for Johnny, it wasn't just a matter of relearning lines. It meant facing a wall of text that felt like a jumbled, impossible mess. He panicked, not visibly, of course. He nodded, took the script, walked away like everything was fine. But inside, he was spinning out of control.